how are you? Welcome to Southern Charm Wreaths, where we make beautiful wreaths and teach you how to make and sell them. I'm Julie Samako, and in this video I want to answer some of your challenges that you've posted on my Facebook page about making wreaths. So I'm just going to refresh my page real quick to make sure that I can see your comments, and you know, hopefully Facebook will behave. Here we go. Alrighty, so yay, it's working. Hi Denise, how are you? Good morning friends. Good morning Facebook friends. I know it's been forever since I've been on here, and so my goal is to get back on here, but I had to work on a project for work, and you know, sometimes when you're working on a big project, you kind of have to put some other projects to the side because you're only one person, right? Even after you hire people to help you, there's things that only you can do, and sometimes you just have to put other things on hold, and unfortunately my Facebook Lives were one of them. But I am back, and I wanted to start off this month by coming on here Facebook Live and answering any of your wreath making struggles that you might have. So some of these have already been posted, and I'm just going to go through and answer them. All right, so let's see. Good morning, Angela from Nebraska. Hi, Tammy. Okay, so some of the questions that we have, one was from Susan Hurtneck. If you know Susan, or if you know any of these people, feel free to tag them and let them know I answered their questions. All right, so Julie, when adding ribbons, do you untie the twist tie or put the ribbon on top of the mesh, or add it on top? Does everything get tied down on the twist, or separate twist for the mesh? This is my answer, whatever you want. Sometimes I untwist the twist ties and I put the ribbon down on top of the mesh, and then so everything is like layered on top of one twist tie, and then I twist it back. Sometimes I'll put the mesh down, twist it, and then lay the ribbon on top of it and twist it. It really depends on the type of look you're going for. If I put the mesh and then a layer of ribbon and then tie it down, I find that I need to make the ribbon streamers longer so that they come out from the loops of the mesh. However, if I put the mesh down and then twist a tie on top of it, then it kind of raises it up about ½ an inch or to an inch, and I can then make my ribbon streamer shorter and put the ribbon on top of that. So that was actually what we did for our January training in our Wreath Making of the Month Club. We didn't untie everything, we just put the ribbon on top without untwisting it. All right, so let's see. Linda Schussler has a question. How do you do your decorations like you did on the lantern that can be removed and then saved again for another season? If you go to my blog, southerncharmwreaths.com, in the search box, type lantern swag, and there's a couple of tutorials teaching you how to make that decorative floral piece that you can put on your lantern and change it out for every season. I hope that helps, Linda. But there's detailed videos on there showing you how to make those lantern swags. Wendy, how do you attach flowers and other items to mesh wreaths? My problem is, like you have said before, afraid to bring flowers out of the wreath to give dimension. Okay, so on the mesh wreaths. So I find that when you're working with Deco mesh, first, it's already pretty thick. When you make a Deco mesh wreath, it could, without ribbon or with flowers or anything, it could be anywhere from 6 to 8 inches deep, depending on the method you use and the frame that you use. So it's harder to bring out flowers even further to give a dimension with the Deco mesh wreaths. So I tend not to come out as far. However, you can add things like grass, you know, that does come out further. Let's see if I have some grass here. Here's an example. So this piece of grass right here, once I put this on the wreath, it will come out further. So that will help to bring it out further as well. And then also you can create your bundles. So I would take one larger flower and some smaller filler flowers and maybe some flowers that come out even further from that, almost making like a little mini lantern swag. And then you can zip tie that onto your Deco Mesh wreaths, and that helps to bring out some of the dimension on the flowers. But it's a little bit trickier to do on Deco Mesh because once you already create the wreath base, it's pretty deep. I mean, it could be anywhere from this deep to that deep, depending on the style you use and also your wreath base. All right, so happy Monday, Jennifer. I've been talking a lot this morning already, and I'm starting to get tongue-tied. All right, let's see. Anita has a question. I need help with ribbon. How many colors? How many in a tie? I feel I overkill with ribbon. How do you decide how long to cut? If you feel that you're go with your gut. If you feel it's an overkill, that means you're not feeling it, that's not your style, then instead of having more colors, let's see, try changing, instead of changing the ribbon, what if you change the colors? So for example, if you have, you know, blue and pink and lime green and what is another color? White. Let's say you have all those and you're feeling like it's an overkill. Do 2 versions of pink and get rid of the white. You know what I'm saying? So instead of doing so many different varieties of the ribbon, instead choose a color family and stay within that color. That might make you feel a little bit better about how it's looking for yourself. I need a pen or something so I know where I'm leaving this. And then, so how many colors? It depends on you. Just know every wreath is right. Every wreath is a work of art. It's your masterpiece. You cannot mess it up. And don't be afraid to take a chance, try new things, make it your own, you know, that type of thing. So it's your masterpiece, your work of art. But I can understand you having that gut feeling like something's not quite right. And so that's why I would say if you feel like you're doing an overkill with ribbon, instead of having multiple colors, just try to stay within 1 or 2 color families, and that might make you feel a little bit at ease. How long to cut? I usually have a rule of 2 inches past the ruffles, or 2 inches past the poofs of the Deco Mesh wreaths. So it just really depends on you, but that's almost like if I were taking the ribbon and I was folding it over the loops, they could almost touch. That's about how far out I know to cut my ribbons, and they tend to be anywhere from 12 to 14 inches, depending on how large my poofs are or my ruffles are. I hope that helps. Let's see. Sherry Baroni? I can't remember. I'm sorry, Sherry. I totally butchered your name. Sherry's question. Choosing. I have such a hard time choosing ribbon flowers to put in my wreath. I end up leaving it feeling defeated. Listen, girl, we've all been there. I mean, even I pull out stuff to put in my wreaths, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not feeling this one. I'm just not feeling this one. And so then I'll just switch to another wreath. Or I'll go have lunch. So I've been there. I feel when you're first starting out, if you find a focal piece, whether it be a sign or it could be these flowers. So this could be, you know, your flowers could be your focal pieces, or it could be a bow that you want to put in the wreath, or it could be a sign or something like that. Pick it and then choose your ribbon colors to be 3 colors from it. So in other words, I could do white, purple, and lavender, and just do all of those colors with these flowers in a wreath, and it will be stunning. You can't go wrong with that. Or I could do white, lavender, and a green, not to forget the foliage. So, and keeping with that color theme, that would be stunning too. So choose your color from your focal piece. And then that's a good tip for beginners, because then you're not reaching too far out of your comfort zone. You already see a color palette already made by a big time company on a sign. You know that it's pretty safe to use. Let's see. And then the flowers, just, I like to choose, so these are about 4 inches in diameter. I kind of like to choose those for the largest size of my wreaths, and then anything under that is good for fillers, and then I usually like to put something really wispy in it to give it some movement on the door. So that might help you too, Sherry. All right, Michelle Armand, adding signs to her wreaths and making them secure without smashing my mesh. Some people's signs look like they are floating. Okay, well, Michelle, I would wonder, who are you looking at? Are you looking at a regular crafter, you know, creating a wreath and putting it on their door? Or are you looking at someone who sells it and ships them and that type of thing? Because those of us who ship our wreaths, we wire, we glue and wire, all of it. We not only one place, not only on the top, we glue and wire 2 to 3 places on a sign. Sometimes the mesh gets mashed. Sometimes the mesh gets mashed. That is definitely a bumper sticker or a coffee mug waiting to happen. Don't you think? Sometimes the mesh gets mashed. Weird. Anyway, sometimes it just happens. However, I have a trick. Let me see if I can find my... Okay, so for example, this is a wreath we made in our Wreath Making of the Month Club. I taught the members how to make this exact wreath, where to get supplies, in last month, January, which if you join our Wreath Making of the Month Club now, you get access to all of our past trainings, so you would have access to this. But you notice where I just did the regular poof method, I attached the signs around where the twist ties are. I find that if I kept my mesh loops on the top smaller than if I do it on the base on the outer ring, the mesh doesn't envelop the sign and it doesn't like smother it. So if you keep your mesh loops a little bit tighter and smaller, and then if you attach your sign, wire it and attach it where the twist ties are, they have a tendency of showing up a little bit better and the mesh doesn't look so smashed. But if I were to open up all of this ribbon, there's a little bit of smashing going on. I mean, there's definitely some smashing going on right here, but the way you overlap your ribbon on it, it just, you can't tell. You can't, the smashing doesn't show. All right, I hope that helps. Where am I going to put this now? Okay, let's see. Miss Carrie. Nope, let's see. Miss Rhonda. Coming up with the different techniques to use for deco mesh. Okay, Miss Rhonda. My question would be to you, why? Why do you want to come up with different techniques? Because if you are making and selling your wreaths, just know you don't have to come up with all of these different techniques. You really could just master one and change out the ribbon and signs and it still be different wreath. Okay, so customers have no clue what technique you used and they don't really care. They just like that it's a pretty wreath and it's working for them. So if you find a technique that works for you, you can keep using the same technique. You see what I'm saying? But there are other ways to use deco mesh, and there's different techniques out there. I mean, I'm not going to lie. You can use, you can go on YouTube and search. I've also got several deco mesh tutorials in my Wreath of the Month Club that I'd be honored for you to take a look at this month. So I put the link there if you're interested. But listen, you don't have to master tons of stuff. You don't. Just come up with some really good wreaths designs. And it's a recipe. You come up with a recipe that works for you. You love it. You just, the next wreath, you change the ribbon color and the mesh and the sign. You've got a completely different wreath same technique. So you use one wreath recipe and you come up with multiple different wreaths designs, and ain't nobody gonna be the wiser. Let's see, I hope that helps you. Roberta, to store your wreaths while waiting for them to sell. Okay, so Roberta, if you go to my blog, southerncharmwreaths.com, and search displays or search stands, I have created or come up with a way to just, you take these the shelving, the white wired shelving that you buy like at Home Depot, you can zip tie them together and you make these towers. And I store my wreaths on these towers. I've got like 3 in the house that I store them on. I also have my garage. We have this I-beam that goes all the way across. We've fashioned a little piece of wood on the side of that with pegs on it that I can hang the wreaths out of the way. I've also known people who have, if you've got like 9-foot ceilings in your house, open up any closet and look up above the door, and you've got like a good 5, well, you've got a good, several inches that you can hang your wreaths on, and that works too. So there's just a little bit, everything it's different for everyone, everybody's house, but that's what works for me. All right, so let's see. All right, let's see. All right, Roberta, I did that one. And Lisa, and how to keep mesh from fraying. Okay, Lisa, mesh frays. You've just got to understand that. People will tell you they have got different methods that help them. If you are selling wreaths, I just want to ask you, how long does it take you to make a wreath? Because you should make a wreath in 30 minutes to an hour time. I mean, a good wreath. You should also be making wreaths that only take you 30 minutes to make out. So if given that, like an hour should be the max that you're spending on making a wreath, do you really have time to do these other things that may cut down on some of the fraying? And I've not seen one that actually prevents 100% of the fraying. So just know that mesh frays, and if you don't like that or can't get over that part of it, then you just try to find a different technique for using the mesh so that it doesn't fray. So, cutting it less, handling it less, doing the poof method, that type of thing. But I'm going to be honest with you, I don't do anything to my wreaths, and some of them, they fray, and I just give them a little haircut, and I'm okay with it. I've not had one customer complain that they're fraying or anything like that. So I hope that helps. Melody, picking ribbon and color combinations. All right, so I went over picking ribbon, and I gave you some suggestions for picking your color combinations by using your centerpieces or whatever sign or whatever focal piece that you're working with. But also, you guys, they have these color wheels. I purchased this one off of Amazon. It tells you exactly how to color coordinate. It gives you these little triangles in the middle, so you can see that if I put it right here, it's telling me that this lavender and this orange, red orange or whatever, and this green are good colors to use together. It also tells me in this little triangle that I could use the orange and the blue green together. If I just turn it right here, it's telling me that I can use this pink, and blue and yellow would be a good color combination, as well as pink and blue and a yellow green. So just, I mean, if you use a color wheel like this, it gives you examples. There's also another one on the back, does basically the same thing. You can use these colors up here to work well together. And also just know too, on the color wheel, any color that's beside each other will color coordinate well together, and any one that, see that little arrow, if any one opposite the color wheel would be a good color coordination. So for example, if I go to yellow, purple would be a good combo, purple and yellow together. Or if I go to, let's say, orange, it's saying I can color coordinate it with blue. So anything right beside it, so an orange, a red, orange, and yellow would go good together, or an orange directly across from it will go good together, or you can skip two. So you can have orange, skip two and use yellow, orange, skip two and use red. So red, orange, and yellow would also match well. So I have also on my blog, southerncharmwreaths.com, search color, and there's an article exactly showing you how to pick color for your wreath using inspiration as well as this color wheel. All right, so hopefully that will help you. Let's see. All right, so Michelle's asking how to put ribbon, a lot of ribbon to look full. So Michelle, if you cut your ribbon, you know, 12, 14 inches long, and you put it in an X form. Let's see, I put it on an X form on this wreath. You just lay the one ribbon here and one ribbon here, and you make an X, and you tie it into your twist tie. That's a good way. Let's see, are you specifically asking about, maybe you're not asking about Deco mesh, but I find that just adding loops, so you just have a little streamer, you do a little loop, you fold it back around, and you do a little loop, and then you cut it off right here. This right here could be twisted down into a twist tie. You don't have to put wire or anything around it. So you could do your layers of your X, you know, ribbons on the bottom, and then layer this on top, and this adds another dimension to the wreath, as well as making it full with ribbon. And that's exactly what we did with this. So you can see right here we've got these little loops of this 1-inch wired ribbon that we got from trendytree.com. We've got one here, one here, one here, and you know, throughout. So that's a way to add some more ribbon to your wreaths, as well as just creating these large funky bows and putting them one at the top and one on the bottom. That adds more ribbon to your wreaths. Let's see. All right, let's see. I'm going to go back and ask your questions after. I don't want to get distracted. Dawn, planning out the wreath with all that's involved. What type of wreath and what colors? So Dawn, that's the fun part, girl. That's when you use the creative mind that God gave you, and just figure out first, what's your focal piece? Is it a sign? Is it a bunny head? Is it a reindeer? Is it ornament or whatever? Find one focal piece that just moves you, that you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to put this in a wreath somehow. Whatever it is, start with that. Then I always try to figure out what's the best way to put this in a wreath. Would it be good in a grapevine wreath? Would it be good in a Deco mesh wreath? How would I create a wreath that will show this object the most? I start from there, and then I ask myself, how can I enhance the colors of what's already on the sign? What color are the flowers? They're typically colors, like using this color wheel and seeing what will coordinate well with the colors in the sign, and then what type of bows and ribbons am I going to use. So hopefully that helps. But planning it out, if you want to draw it, sometimes I find that if I've got an idea in my head and I don't have a sign yet or a focal piece, I just put something out on paper. That helps. Sometimes people are really visual, and that would help. Other times, it's really just getting in there and just doing it and making a hot mess of everything. Glue drips and ribbon streamers and deco mesh and flowers and all of that. Just making a big hot mess. And guess what? One day you'll bake something that looks good. You know what I'm saying? You just get in there and you practice, 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 and then you start to become or feel it. You start to feel it a little bit more, and you start to know what style works for you, and you start to have your own style come out. So there's sometimes when I look at some people's wreaths and I just know who made that without even seeing a logo or linking back to their website. I can just know who made it because I know their style. Does that make sense? So the more you get in there and having fun with yourself and making them, the more your style will come out. The more you'll learn designs that work for you. All right, so Miss Jerry Fortner, how did you get started selling on Facebook? Did you just do lives and have faith at what you made a sale? Okay, so Jerry, what I did to get started does not work anymore on Facebook because Facebook has gone through at least 3 to 5 algorithm changes from when I first started. So I have to say, when I first got started, I didn't even use Facebook. I used Etsy. I created my email list. I marketed on my email list. And then as Facebook started getting a little bit more popular for our age, because, you know, when it first came out, it wasn't really popular for our age. It was a little younger crowd. And then it kind of morphed to my age group, people who can actually afford my wreaths. So once that happened is when I started using Facebook a little bit more. But what's working now is what I would say is Facebook Live. They've gone through another algorithm change. So it's harder to get seen with your products. But doing a Facebook Live definitely helps. It doesn't have to be, you have to remember who is watching. Who do you want your audience to be? You don't necessarily, if you're trying to sell wreaths, you don't necessarily want your your audience to be wreath makers. Does that make sense? So if you're selling your wreaths, you want your audience to be wreath buyers. So what kind of content can you give a wreath buyer that will help you to sell more wreaths? So they're going to be interested in, you know, your techniques, how you choose color. They might be interested in how is everything secured, what kind of products do you use, is there quality, what's the quality control, how do you ship. They might be interested in learning a little bit more about you so that they can know, like, and trust you and feel comfortable in buying from you. They might also be interested in just, you know, seeing you put something together and say, hey, I want that. And you don't have to do a wreath from start to finish. You could just do a wreath that you've already finished and you're putting some finishing touches on, like I did a couple days ago with that wreath behind me. No, this wreath right here. So I had created the whole wreath and then I forgot to add a few pieces to it. So I came on a Facebook Live and showed just how I added that. So just doing some things like that will help to increase some sales for your audience. Also, talking about how to style with wreaths, what size wreaths would you put on your door, different ways to display wreaths, you know, things like that. So keep your audience in mind on who you want to attract, and then gear your Facebook Lives to that audience. All right, so Donna, how to attach signs and embellishments without crushing ribbon. And how to hide twist ties. Okay, so I already talked about how to add stuff without crushing. Another technique would be if you want to just put the wire through the mesh loops. You don't have to do it on a twist tie. You could go through the mesh loops too. That sometimes helps. And then how to hide the twist ties. I don't hide my twist ties. I get the wreaths that are color coordinated with my design and I don't hide them. I mean, right here is a twist tie. They're showing. So I don't hide mine ever. But if you want to hide yours, you can just fold them to the back underneath, or you could just cut them short. After you've twisted it about 4 or 5 times and making sure it's not coming out twisted, you could cut it short. But that's all totally up to you, but I don't hide mine. All right, and then Teresa Frost, is it okay to see some of the grapevine? Yes. It's okay to see some of the grapevine. Let's see, for the example, so here's the grapevine showing. And then if you look really closely through this, you can see some of the grapevine. So this is a wreath I demonstrated how to make in our wreath club this week. But if you looked really close, I'm going to see if that will I don't know if you'll see it, but if you look really close, I mean, you can see some of the grapevine, but typically people aren't going to be looking that closely. Does that make sense? So yeah, it is okay to see some of it. It also depends on the style that you want, that you're going for, because if you're going for a real rustic look, or if you're going through for a garden type look, some of the grapevine is going to show, and that's actually what enhances the look of the wreath. So yes, it's okay for some of it to show. If you're trying to make a real compact wreath, that's different. You could use things like moss, you know, sheet moss like this, just to cover up your items. You could use, this is moss. You could use leftover flowers. I mean, not flowers, but, you know, leaves. So I've got this right here. You know, I mean, I keep these little things because I could just cut this off and this would be a good filler for greenery. And most people would think this is trash. It's not good to use. But no, you can use this as filler to help cover up those spots if you don't feel comfortable with that grapevine showing. Sally, doing something different besides the typical X with my ribbon. I've already gone over. You can make the bow loops and add on top of that. And then Christine, how to branch out to other materials. Right now, all the wreaths have been Deco mesh. So Christine, it does sound like you're ready to venture out to silk flower wreaths, and I'd be honored to have you in our Wreath Making of the Month Club. I have so many recipes on there. Right now, we've got over 51 training videos, whether it be, you know, making your wreaths, different wreath recipes. We've got a few Deco mesh, but the majority of them are silk flower wreath recipes to teach you how to add flowers, how far out to come. Every video I teach how far out to come for the flowers. I give measurements on ribbon cutting. All of that is, I mean, I really give you a recipe that you can use over and over and over again on every different season and holiday. So take a look at that. I've got the link in here, and let's see, I'll go ahead and put it right here, and then I want to come in and answer your questions that you might have. Let's see. It's not working. I'll have to post the link up in the post at the top. There it goes. All right, so getting fresh ideas. Colleen, that's another, you know, I give you ideas in the group. Also, go on Pinterest, search spring wreath. You could get some inspiration ideas that way. Go to Etsy, search spring wreaths, and you get inspiration ideas that way. And I don't mean like copy a wreath. I mean, look at color combinations. What color combinations, you know, moves you? You could use those color combinations in your own wreath. What layout are they using? Are they using the half moon? Are they doing, you know, where they have it just on the bottom? Are they do, you know, Deco mesh where it's draping down the side? You know, then you can kind of get inspiration that way too, and see how you can incorporate some of those same elements or same techniques into your own creations. But I'm not saying copy, I'm just saying use it as an inspiration tool. All right, so you guys, that was all the questions that you guys had posted for me last week, and I'm going to go through and see if I can see your comments, and I'll have to come on here because it's not showing me very many over there. Let's see. I'll have to, it's only showing me like 5 comments, you guys. Oh, I hate Facebook when it's trying to be the boss of us, right? Trying to make things a little harder. Julie, I struggle with deciding what type of bows look best with what style of wreath. I made a 3-ribbon bow for a spring floral grapevine, and it wasn't the right bow for this. A rule of thumb. I don't really think there is a rule of thumb. However, for a spring wreath, for me, the 1.5 inch, I always tend to go with it because it's smaller. I mean, it's airy. You know, if you go with a 2 inch, let's see if I can find that. Hold on. So if I go with a 2 inch ribbon and make a bow, it's going to be stuffier. It's going to be heavy on the color, whatever color you're using. It's just going to be a bigger bow. To me, I mean, that's fine if that's what you want to use. I mean, I've seen spring ribbons that, bows that have that. But it's just a heavier looking bow. Does that make sense? However, if I were to use the 1.5 inch and do the same thing, didn't get a good grip from the beginning. You could see that this is a little bit more airy, and to me, springtime is, you know, airy and light, not heavy on, you know, lots of color and stuff like that. So if that's, you know, just giving you an example, so you can kind of see the difference. That this bow, you know, this is just a little bit more airy. It won't take up so much, you know, room on the wreath and that type of thing. And you know, I don't know. I just tend to draw for the spring wreaths. I tend to go more towards the 1.5 inch. That's just my style, and that's what I like. Now, if you wanted to do the 2.5 inch, maybe not so many loops. Maybe you just did 3 loops. A little bit bigger. And then you have your ribbon streamers. I mean, that right there could be a bow. So you have ribbon coming out here and maybe a ribbon streamer coming out there. So it doesn't have to be, you know, I mean, I don't, that's what I'm thinking for me anyway. That's what works for me. There is no rule though. There really is no rule. If you find that your ribbon or your bows don't look right, just try different ways. You know, and there is no right way to make a bow. There's no one way. There's several different bow techniques out there. I know 9 ways of that free video, 9 ways to make a bow. I'll post that out here too. I'm making sure I'm still live because the screen is looking blank on my phone. All right, so hopefully that will help you. Now I've lost whoever asked that question. Susan, how many items do you put in one open twist tie? I don't know, Susan. It depends. Sometimes it's the mesh and the ribbon. Sometimes it's mesh, ribbon, flowers, and an ornament. It really just doesn't, there's no, I don't have an answer. Just depends on the wreath. I mean, you can put as many items as you want. Let's see, Ramona, on the wreath forms, there are 9 ties on top and 10 on the bottom. So at some point, the ribbons on top will be the same as the ribbons on the bottom. Is there a way? Nope. Okay, so she's talking about they don't line up. I think that's what she's talking about. So if you look over here on the back, you've got these twist ties, and sometimes they're in between. So you've got a twist tie here and a twist tie here. And then you've got one on the inner ring that's between it. But then they get to where they're down here and they're lined up exactly over. And she's saying it's driving her crazy because the same ribbon colors are exactly the same as the ribbon colors that are on the inner and the outer ring are the same. Don't worry about it. Nobody's going to know that but you. Just keep on going. It's okay. All right, hopefully that answers your question. Let's see if there are... Do I have a specific spot to start adding your flowers? Do you choose a focal point to work from? If I'm doing a deco mesh wreath, I usually have a sign, but I've made wreaths without signs. But I don't know, I'm drawn to the power of 3. So if I put one on the top, I might put 2 on the bottom so that it forms a triangle. So that might be where my larger 4-inch flowers go, the larger flowers. And then in between that triangle, I might put either a different color of 4-inch flowers in between that, or switch up and put a different textured flower. So these hydrangeas would be pretty. So I usually do, a triangle, start there, and then I could go outwards and put flowers in between those triangles, or sometimes it's ornaments, that type of thing. So if you stick kind of with the power of 3, that might help you, but there is really no rule. I mean, you don't have to stick to that rule, but to me that might help some of you who are starting out to get started. I tend to, when I'm doing something really fast, just do that, because I know it's going to work and it'll be done. So sometimes I do that. And then with silk flowers, I don't know. Like, for example, this wreath, I stagger them. So like a staircase down. And that's just, yeah. I don't know, it just depends on the wreath design that I'm going for, and it does take a lot of practice. I mean, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, almost 10, so it does take practice. So everyone needs to just practice, practice, practice. I don't know, Facebook isn't showing me all of the questions. What do you do when the gap at each tie is too wide and not close together and not using ribbon? You can take the twist ties and twist them together, like from the inner ring and to the outer ring. Once your wreath is designed and you've got maybe a little hole, you just take those twist ties and bring them together and just loosely tie them or twist them together at the top, and it kind of closes in that hole. I gave a new technique, but I gave a way to do it in the inner circle last month with this wreath, because the twist ties were really loosey-goosey. They were falling back and forth too much, so I just gave a way of adding more mesh in between the twist ties to help with that problem. Sandra makes her own wire wreath forms and twist ties. Yeah, can you get that wreath made in 30 minutes to an hour? Sandra, sometimes that's not worth it for some of us. Let's see, when we apply for a business license, does that automatically grant us a tax-free status? No. You have to actually, there's different business licenses in your state, and you have to get the resell license, retail resell license for your state. That is what you need. All right, I think that's it. Does a hot glue melt when the attaching? No, You can hot glue directly onto the mesh, and it doesn't melt the mesh, if that's the question. And here is the Success Circle link. That's my business link if you're interested in learning more about selling your wreaths and making money to help support your family, or maybe you're wanting to retire. We've got some business tips in that inner circle. Yeah, so we just talked about today in my business group about what did we just talk about? Gosh, I'm having a brain freeze. Just talked about being, getting over some of the negative feelings that we feel when we watch other business owners succeed. So I gave them some great tips on how to get over that and just to concentrate on their own race and how to build fire within themselves. It's because ain't nobody going to make this business work but you. So you got to do that. So I gave them some tips on how to do that. All right, you guys, I don't know why my phone is black. I'm hoping that it's working. You guys, I want to thank you for watching me today. And again, if you have any questions on your wreath making, you know, just comment below and let me know. And I'll come back in occasionally and answer some of these questions. But these were, you know, I just want to encourage you just to try. If you do it and it doesn't you don't like it, just you've tried it, you've learned. A lot of people like to sit and watch and dream, but I want just to encourage you, instead of dreaming, get out there and try something new. Wreath making is a great way of reducing your stress, checking out from your daily life, giving you a hobby, something to do with your hands. If you're tend to want to do other things with your hands and you want to try to ease that, try wreath making. It is so much fun. So it's brought a lot of joy into my life. When I first started out, it was a hobby, something to help. I was a stay-at-home mom and I just needed something else to do, and it was a hobby for me. And then the neighbors wanted to buy the wreaths off my front door. And they were like, you should totally sell these. And I'm thinking, what? And so, I mean, that's how it all started. So I encourage you to just try. And you can't fix, there's just nothing that you can do to mess up that you can't fix with some hot glue and ribbon. I'm honest. Honestly, you really just cannot mess up something so bad that you just chuck it. You really can't. So I can't wait to see what you guys create, and I encourage you to upload your beautiful wreaths to the page. Feel free to post them on the page. I'd be more than happy to share them and get your name out for your business. If that's what you're trying to do, you can go ahead and tag your business on here too. So that would help you, because I know Facebook algorithms are not the best right now. So anything I could do to help you guys out. All right, you guys have a very good week, and I'm going to try to come back on here this week and actually make a wreath on my page. Okay, so you guys have a very blessed day, and I hope you've learned something out of this. I hope you got some use or some tips to help you with your questions. All right, thank you guys. Have a great day. You too, Tammy.